So, to kind of conclude the year, America was in fact founded on an explicitly Christian cultural context by men with a Christian worldview. Not every single one of them might have been personally related to Jesus Christ, but every one of them held to a Christian worldview. There wasn't a single one among the founders that didn't hold to the concept that God created the world, that the scriptures were meant to be a guidebook for how we ought to live, and that they would be in fact held accountable at the end of time. Every single one of them believed that. Okay? The documents themselves are built upon a Christian conceptual framework, and a Christian conceptual framework is required for them to work. We must accept that responsibility to know our history and to act as Christian citizens. We must choose men who hold a Christian worldview as our leaders. I should say our, that's bad English. Okay? We must take responsibility to teach the next generation. All right? We have that responsibility, not to let these things fade into the past any more than they already have. Okay? And so with that, one of the things in your handout is this, and this was just something Herb put together a few months ago, as places where you can choose to be involved. And this is not by any means an exhaustive list, it's meant to be an example list. All right? And you know, there's many, many, many organizations that are, thank God, fighting a battle. And so we're not recommending these or anything, we're just saying pick one or pick something and get involved somehow. All right? We cannot afford to sit on the sidelines. And of course, along with that, it means you have to be a student of God's Word, right? So we know what we ought to be doing. Not just that we ought to be doing something. Okay? Well, I want to thank all of you for sticking through this to the end. I hope that you found the year useful, helpful. Hopefully, we've changed the way you think about a few things. That was our goal. Scott?
One of the things for me really is coming to clear light is this worldview thing you just touched on here in the screen before. And this says, in my lifetime anyway, I don't remember having such offense in terms of opposite worldview in the world. Driving home now, you see freedomfromreligion.org, you can love and live and care without God. So I went and looked that up, you know, and then it's basically a Center for Inquiry, which is a humanist secular thought, pressing their agenda into the world as Christians. I think we need to be prepared to press back. Otherwise, we don't lose. We don't have to be a majority, but we have to be solid.
It's not been a majority that's got us to where we are today.
Yeah.
And in fact, even during the time of the American Revolution, it was not a majority.
Right.
It was only about a third of the population that in fact were in support of independence.
It's all sides. I've never experienced this in my lifetime almost. Where you just, it's there, it's in your face, and it's getting, ADF sent something out on the homosexual agenda here this last week.
Mm-hmm.
And
the thing about it is that it's been because we have retreated.
Yes. Absolutely.
And so, therefore, the first thing to do is stop retreating. You know, the first rule of holes is to stop digging. The first rule of culture wars is to stop retreating.
Yeah.
And then we need to go on the offense. Okay? But the thing about it is, and this is where I think Christians have to go, and that is that we have to start believing, because we've been so indoctrinated, we have to believe that we're right to contend in the public square for the truth. All right? And some people would argue that that sounds like we want to impose our views on other people, and to some extent, we do.
Yeah.
Right? It's no different on the other side.
Bingo.
So the issue is not whether or not views are going to be imposed. The question is whose views, and at the end of the day, we know We have enough the nice thing on being on this side of history is we have enough historical evidence to show which view brings the most liberty to people. And we need to not be ashamed of that. Christians need to know their history. They need to know there's a reason why, and I've done this before when I've put up a map of the world, right? There's a reason, if you look at the map of the world, that certain countries enjoy the most freedom and the most economic wealth, and other countries have great oppression. And if you look at the map and you're honest about it, it's those that have had the influence of Christianity. And that includes not only the West, but it includes Japan and Singapore and India, right? India would not be what it is today if it hadn't been for the colonization of the British. And so people like to talk about British imperialism, the British Empire. The British Empire was great for millions and millions and millions of people. Doesn't justify everything the Brits did, right? Again, they were flawed vehicles. But at the end of the day, they benefited billions of people, actually. Which is incredible when you think about how big a nation they are.
It took Tyndale's Bible a lot of places.
Yeah.
David Barton has it now. If you go to, I just lost it.
Wall builders?
Well, it's not wall builders. It's got the Black Robe Regiment /wallbuilders.com.
Yep.
And he started some things for the pastors to legally get involved in the culture, to start speaking. And his assumption there is, the British basically said if it hadn't been for the pastors in the United States, they would have won the war.
Yeah. And the sad thing about it is most of them were Presbyterians.
Yeah.
And within the last 2 weeks, the Presbyterians have stepped off another cliff.
Oh,
No.
yeah.
Yeah.
They started
now?
stepping.
They just
PCUSA.
authorized homosexual
Homosexual marriage.
clergy.
Clergy, yeah.
That's the PCUSA.
What's that?
That's the PCUSA.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
There's still other wings of Presbyterianism,
Yeah, but they're much smaller.
yeah, and they're not sticking to things much better.
I
So-
like it's called PC.
Yeah. So it's just and the point of all this, right, is that the enemy is alive. Peter was right. Satan prowls around like a roaring lion, seeking those he can devour. And we can't sit and let things happen. Yeah.
Are you familiar with the Reclaim the Seven Mountains? Lauren Cunningham and Francis Schaeffer and Bill Bright all came up with the same prophetic view way back in 1875, that there are 7 spheres of cultural influence. Government, which you've been talking about, education, which is very connected, arts and media, the church, family, business and entertainment, and that these spheres in our culture, we need to reclaim them all.
Right.
And there's, so they all came up with the same vision at the same time. So, coincidence? Probably not.
Yeah.
And there's a very active movement afoot now, because we all see it, and I think many of you are familiar with the documentary, The Agenda, which basically proves that, or, provides evidence that there was a movement underlying what's happened to education, what's happened to arts and media, what's happened to the family in terms of the homosexual agenda, feminism. And Lance Wallnow and Oz Hillman are the ones that are orchestrating this, and they're going to be here for the As One conference. They're going to come to Portland, and they're doing it all over the world, but they're coming here to Portland in September. And enthusiasm, the genesis of that word, entheo, God in you. I think we all have a passion for one of those spheres, if not more than one. And that's the goal, is to help people find each other so that we can work together, that we complete each other, we don't compete with each other, that we all, if we're active in taking back one of those spheres, we can make a difference.
Yeah.
You said it doesn't take a majority. At the conference that I was at recently, they said only 3 to 8%. That's all you need. 3 to 8% of the influential people, and you got it. And you can see that's what they've done. They don't have a majority. But they have a small minority of influential people.
Yeah,
So,
and, you know, on the one hand, what they have going for them is the fact that they play into human nature, right? And we play against human nature.
Yep. Got it.
But, you know, greater is he that is in us than he's in the world. And so, you know, we need to move forward. And so I leave you with that today. So I'd like you to take some time, if you will, the final minutes of the class here. If you would fill that out, it would be very helpful to Herb and I. Yeah.
One opportunity for improvement.
I already cut some of them out of there, just so it would